Yeah, welcome to the Weege Show. I've never actually been on this side of this hillside at Hangtown, but I earned it today. As always, the cameras do not do it justice, and walking up that hill was more strenuous than it should be. I don't know if that says more about the camera not showing how steep it is or what a wuss I am, but either way, I earned it, so I just wanted to start the show with this view because I walked all the way up here, and our TV trailer's here, so I gotta be here anyway. That's their trailer over there. Yeah, great content. We'll be back with more. This is all brought to you by the Honda CRF 250R and CRF 450R. Check them out in action, going 1-2 in the 450 class with the Lawrence brothers last week. Chance Hymas nearly a podium, and from the inside scoop that we have from Lars Lindström, the team manager over there, big bike changes suspension-wise for Jo Shimoda this week. He didn't get to do a lot of testing pre-motocross because he was banged up a little bit at that Salt Lake City Supercross. They expect Joe to be better this weekend, so watch the Honda boys in action this weekend and continue to watch this show for more, including an interview that you may or may not have seen with Mike Pelletier of the AMA about why they made the decision last week to penalize Tom Vialle and not penalize Haiden Deegan. This interview actually comes from the SMX Insider show on YouTube that Jason Thomas and I host. But in case you haven't seen it, I'm gonna play you the full Mike Pelletier interview. And if you have seen it before, just slide the bar about 3 minutes and rejoin me here at Hangtown. And now joined by the AMA's Mike Pelletier. I know you were working really late after the race to try to sort it out with Haiden Deegan, and we'll get into the specifics of each incident. But first, just explain who is the group that helps decide penalties or no penalties like this?
Yeah, that's a good question, Weege. And you know, there's a panel that we created quite a few years ago. We call it Race Direction. So I have a Race Direction team. It's more of a committee based when it comes to infractions or reviewing footage. It's myself, Tim McAdams, and a rider rep. That's a fairly new position the last few years. This past weekend, for example, it was Andrew Short.
Andrew Short, yes. So if people are wondering, it's not just you. You had a ex-professional racer in there weighing in on this.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and that's good every weekend. You know, we also have Jeremy Albrecht that comes in from time to time, Christina Denny. So a lot of different viewpoints, a lot of good perspectives, and Andrew was certainly a benefit this weekend.
Cool.
So let's jump into the nitty gritty of this. Obviously, the first one that we had to cross was Tom Vialle. His off-track excursion in the first moto drew a penalty. And walk us through the thought process and exactly what was, in the end, the reason that he did incur that penalty.
Sure. So I'd like to start by the rule itself. So in Pro Motocross, it's very specific. There's really three main aspects to the rule, right? Did the rider, when he goes off track, did he gain a time or a position advantage? That's one. Did he fail to slow down? That's two. And did he accelerate in an unsafe manner? That's three. So it doesn't mean that all three need to line up for a penalty. There's multiple things we can look at. Those are the main three as it's written in the rule. So in Tom's case, he went off the track as Race Direction reviewed the footage, realized he never broke from race pace, so he failed to slow down. And when he did come back on, he really didn't assess the situation safely. We felt that when he came back onto the racetrack, he just jumped back onto the track. So that was a set penalty in the penalty chart. It's a one position penalty. So he was assessed that one position penalty for that situation.
Okay. So now we jump to Moto 2, and I'm sure this is what has kept you from sleeping the last night or two. Haiden Deegan goes off the track as well, right? And we saw riders going off the track throughout the weekend, berms blowing out. This is for the overall win, though, right? All eyes are on Haiden Deegan, and this did not incur a penalty. So walk us through. It seems like this was a subject that was talked about heavily after the race because we had a delay in official results and press conference. But what was the reasoning for him not getting a penalty the way that Tom Vialle did?
Sure. And it's important, I think, for everybody to know we have a lot of footage behind the scenes, not just the broadcast footage, right? So we can pull the drone footage, different camera angles. We go as far back to see his previous lap. You know, how much time did it take him in that section? The segment times, all of that's really dissected. And we try to do that as fast as we can. We do need to clean that up because I think it took too long on Saturday night. But it's important for us to also dissect that and come up with the right decision. So as Race Direction reviewed that, when Haiden went off the racetrack, he did assess. He looked around. We felt that he did break race pace. And for sure, he lost time based off our footage. So those three areas is what we assessed and decided to no penalty.
So what made that one take so long to figure out?
Yeah, that's a good question, Jason. And we try to do it as fast as we can, but it's more important. And all the footage we have, all the data points we want to look at, it's important to get it right. And that takes time to do. Now we're working on trying to do that faster. But again, with all the interviews we want to do and all the footage we want to receive and look at and view and assess, that just takes some time. And that's what took so long.
All right. Thanks for the clarity. Maybe a little easier weekend coming up in Hangtown. We'll have to see.
Looking forward to Hangtown.
Press day riding has begun here at Hangtown. If you just watched that video, I think the key thing you have to understand is what the rule actually is. It doesn't say it's illegal to produce roost or dust from your motorcycle. It doesn't say you have to come to a first gear idle, crawl, or stop. I talked to Mike Pelletier again here real quick, and he said the main thing is acknowledge that you've gone off the racetrack. Slow up a bit, look around, try to be safe. Acknowledge you went off the racetrack. I think the interpretation from a lot of people is, I saw Deegan, I saw roost coming off of his tire. He didn't slow down a lot, but the rule doesn't say that you have to slow down a lot. You just have to go slower than when you were on the track the previous lap, and that makes a big difference right there. And also, I asked, Deegan jumped a really big jump after he came back onto the track, and the explanation from Deegan's side was there was a lap rider who had just passed before he went off the track and Levi Kitchen close by, and the theory was, do you really want me to roll a jump with two guys right behind me? Wouldn't it be safer to jump the jump? And he at least jumped the jump from the face of the jump on the racetrack. Anyway, it doesn't really matter what I say. People are going to have their opinions. A, it's the internet, and B, it's Deegan. My gosh. That's the reasoning, at least for the AMA side. Let's watch some boys ride here. One of the crazy things when you get trackside at one of these events is how fast everybody actually is. Why would I pull the camera away when Deegan is surely about to get upside down over a jump? Duh. Thank you, Hardy Munoz, for making my point. When you watch it on TV or you're up in the hillside or the grandstand, you see a certain rider, maybe he's in 15th or 20th. In our minds, he's struggling, right? Then you come out here and stand right next to the track and realize the guy that you think is struggling in 15th or 20th is so much faster than anybody else you normally see ride. The skills are outrageous. Remember, these are Major League Baseball players, these are NBA players, these are NFL player equivalent. Barsha at about 40% through that corner. Just blew our minds. When you're trackside, how crazy is it how good these guys actually are?
They're going a lot bigger than you think they are.
That's exactly it. And I do it in Supercross. Carmichael and I will usually watch on the floor, the free practice, and it is mind-boggling. A guy like Dean Wilson or Adam Cianciarulo, Freddie Norin. Guys who are in that 10 to 20 range in Supercross. You know, Dean is borderline top 10. He's unbelievable. Here's Nick Romano. Nick Romano, not killing it results-wise. Still unbelievable when you watch him ride. It's the perspective that we tend to lose when you realize you're watching the best in the game. Speaking of Deegan, I just talked to Brian Deegan. That's Hayden's dad. Does anybody know that? They did something interesting this week. They were going to go back to Florida and train. They decided to stay in California and specifically go back to Pala and ride sections of the track where they felt the bike could have been better and then test in those specific sections. And Brian was happy because they actually left the track pretty rough there as well. Section's a little different here. It's the old mechanic section, a little bit different now. made massive wholesale changes with the motorcycle from round 1 to round 2. I think he actually went from an air fork to a spring fork before the second round, or maybe that came later, but either way, they were really struggling for bike setup early on. This year they felt much better. Brian did say he was a little worried. That was the first motocross race on the new chassis. And Brian feels that the way Haiden corners where he leans over really early, even though that old Yamaha was not known for being the best cornering bike, it was fine for them. He was almost worried this would be too nimble, so they were pretty happy, but going back to Pella and working specific sections and making changes, he thinks the bike's better here. It's Josh Varese there. So it all leads to the main point of this show, which is not the Deegan penalty or the Deegan bike testing or talking to some riders in press day, which we'll do in just a moment. It comes down to what you see at round 1. Is that what you're going to get? Historically, Anaheim 1 and round 1 of Pro Motocross, everyone's guessing on setups. Sometimes guys are nervous. Sometimes guys don't have their outdoor legs. Some guys adapt more quickly to it than others. Sometimes round 1 is weird. The amount of times the Supercross champion in the 450 class has gone to round 1 and struggled in Pro Motocross, that probably happens more often than he does well. Brian Villapoto, Brian Dungey, Chase Sexton last year, Eli Tomac at Pala in 2022. The list goes on of the Supercross champ. Not feeling it at round 1. So that's the real question. That looked like, in my opinion, a real challenge for Chase Sexton and Hunter Lawrence on Jet Lawrence. Is that a mildest form of Supercross championship hangover you can get? Is Jet, was he like 4% off because he was sweating out Supercross right to the end? Certainly didn't seem happy with the motorcycle right after the motos. I know you're going to say, why didn't he just ride? But he has last year. I've heard some components have changed on the factory Honda, so they cannot do the exact same bike. And track prep is different. And these are human beings. They might just maybe roll the same thing out 12 months later. They're just not going to feel the same. Anyway, is that a round 1 and he's going to get even better from there? Or is this a sustainable challenge? Remember, Sexton didn't race here last year. He was close at round 1, right behind Jet the whole day, and then was hurt and didn't come here. So this is a different scenario as long as he shows up. And the same thing in the 250s applies there. Is it Deegan and Kitchen with a gap over everyone? You got to figure Vialle will get better, but Deegan's bike is better. Is he going to be even better and going to start pulling away? That's the interesting thing when you get to round 2. You really don't know. Real quick, I talked to Freddie Noren and Jordan Smith at press day. Let's hear from them real quick. One of the things I love about the race that you don't get to see on TV, that's my bad, is there are gnarly battles that people don't even know about. So Freddie Noren, just take me through you, Malcolm, and Phil, for example, that most people didn't probably see, but it was everything to you guys.
Yeah, you know, the second moto at Pala, Phil was 9th, I was 10th, I don't know what move he ended up, 7th, I think, right?
Yeah,
but yeah, anyways, I was keeping up good with Malcolm, and Malcolm passed Phil, and I got stuck in Phil's slower pace.
Slower, we just want to make that clear. So you got to him?
Yeah, I got to Phil, and I couldn't pass him. No, it was a good battle. It was fun, you know. So, but yeah, I should have just, you know, nudged him a little bit. Yeah, I love you, Phil, but yeah, I should have really just pushed him a little bit.
What I don't think people realize is you hear this all the time when guys train together or ride together or they're teammates. So you've ridden with Phil a lot during the week. It's not like because you're friendly on Tuesday that you're trying any less hard on Saturday.
No, not at all, dude. We're racers, we're competitors. Like, you know, friends or not friends, you're gonna race each other hard. So I was just a little too nice on Saturday, you know, settled in, which I shouldn't. So that's, you know, my bad. Like I said, I should have really nudged him a little bit, you know. But yeah, no, it was a fun battle.
Hey, Jordan Smith, you were like a real dark horse wild card coming in, and I feel like you lived up to it. You rode really well at the beginning, and then what happened?
Well, first moto, I washed the front over that like kind of like little hip turn there. Got up, and I thought my bike was pretty like twisted up. I thought I was gonna have to go into the mechanics area, but I rode it around for about a lap or 2 and got used to the bars being so twisted. And I figured that was better than having to pull in. So got actually used to it, and made a good charge back, ended up 7th in the first moto, only about a second, I think, behind Jalik. I was kind of caught him from about 10 seconds down there coming from the end. So, yeah, and then second moto was just kind of a disaster, honestly. I got a terrible jump, got kind of lugged down in the deep stuff, was buried going into the first turn, and then I was trying to, like, I knew it was pretty muddy, I was trying to be, like, patient. I knew someone was going to probably fall, and of course the guy that's like right here fell right in front of me. My tire went like under his bike, couldn't get out from like behind. I was dead last, and then proceeded to fall another 2 or 3 times with other riders coming through the pack. So it's just tough. Like I think that it was a good, like, I mean, it's been so long since I've like really been like felt like I can push in outdoors. So I think it was a good learning week for me to really remember how long the motos are, and like if something does happen early on, like you have 35 minutes to make that time up, especially in the second moto. People are going to get tired, like, and if my fitness is really good, and like if I can keep pushing, like don't necessarily like make those mistakes of like where, you know, yeah, you're trying to pass someone for 32nd place, but like it doesn't have to be this turn, you know. Like, yeah, you got to get them quicker than late, like sooner than later, but it doesn't have to be this turn. And that's kind of like the mindset I have, is like trying to pass these guys like as quick as I possibly could, and it didn't work.
Still though, you're encouraged. I mean, I feel like you were like podium level-ish riding wise, so you're encouraged with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I mean, I've told the guys that was the best that I've ever rode, like the best I've ever felt at an outdoor, like throughout the day. I qualified good in both practices. First moto I rode really good. Second moto I rode great too. Like I didn't ride bad. I just, you know, went down the first turn, went down the first lap with someone got kind of sketchy and came across the ruts, and I went down, and then, you know, it's just a disaster for like whenever you're 15 seconds behind last place on the third lap, it's not a good spot. So yeah, I feel really encouraged with the riding, and like I really feel like I could have been could have been on the podium. I mean, I went 7:19, so it doesn't like seem like that, but I do feel like I could have easily, with 2 good starts and not tugging the front in the first one, I could have easily went 3-3, 3-4, 2, like whatever.
I encourage you to check out our Video Vault YouTube channel where we post old races. We just posted Hangtown 1993 this morning, so 30-ish years ago. Then go back and look at the highlights of the 2023 edition, and look how much the track has changed. Same basic layout, they're in the same areas. You really get an idea of how things slowly, surely evolve, a small percentage point every year, and then eventually things look totally different. How much faster the bikes are now. This track is certainly prepped better than it was back then, where it was, this is basically the track in 93, it looked like this. The dirt we have in the infield now looks about like what the racetrack looked back then. That's it. Thanks to Honda for backing our show. Myself and James Stewart will be in the booth tomorrow. Watch us at 4 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock here at Hangtown for moto coverage, and qualifying 3 hours before that on Race Day Live.